10 full years of buildup, and now the moment of truth is finally upon us when Clark Kent must step into the light as Superman. Do we get the payoff we've been waiting for?
Wouldn't want to miss how it all turns out.
What did you think of Season 10? Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my theological review for Smallville, the final season, the light of the world. And I call this video the light of the world because that is what we are finally building towards in Season 10. Heroes who can no longer stay in the shadows, but they must be good, full of integrity, with nothing to hide, and stepping out into the light. That is the theme of Season 10 as Darkseid arrives and darkness begins to fill the earth. The only deliverance out of darkness is the light, and now Clark must take those steps and become the light. Do you like this type of video that I do? Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and share this with a friend.
When I sent the Kandorans away, I opened a door for something else to come to Earth. It preys upon the dark side that we already have.
You are the light. 10 years of buildup. Can the final season of Smallville live up to all of that buildup? I think overall it does. I think Season 10 is an interesting Superman origin story. And one of the things that I like about the overall story in Season 10 is it presents a world where Superman as the light is needed because Darkseid comes literally preying upon the dark side of humanity. And it's kind of amazing as you watch the season how easily and how quickly human beings fall to the dark side. But I think that's incredibly true of real life. So the point is we're seeing the world be full of darkness. Its only redemption, the only way it can be saved, is if the light arrives. And so Clark Kent throughout this season must learn how to destroy those strongholds in his heart and in his life that the darkness has a place in, so that he is completely free of the darkness and it has nothing on him whatsoever, and he can finally be the light. So it's that final push, bringing Clark into that moment and bringing Clark into that destiny of becoming Superman. So I thought they did a good job of building up the need. The world needs Superman because he is their only hope. Now, even though it's good, and I definitely think it lives up, Season 10 definitely does have some weaknesses. And I'm going to talk about those first and get them out of the way before I dive into the stuff that I really did love about the final season of Smallville.
That is of no importance to me.
Ugh. Just right off the bat, some of the lame stuff, I cannot believe the filler episodes that were in Smallville Season 10. Just the filler freak of the weeks. And I was like, come on. It's the final season. Why do we have these mediocre, just fill in the gap episodes? Just have less episodes in the 10th season and really build that final story. And having less episodes means more budget for the series finale. But the other frustrating thing about that is Smallville by the last season has perfected the art of, yeah, we know this is a lame freak of the week episode, so we're going to shove something incredibly crucial and important to the storyline, so you have to watch it. And yet the stuff they shove in there important to the storyline is good, but then you have to wade through this mediocre stuff to get there. The other thing that was kind of a letdown for me in Season 10 was Supergirl. And by that I mean Supergirl's goodbye. Because when she first popped up in Season 10, Episode 3, it was very cool. I mean, one of the cool things about Supergirl is her, again, teaching Clark how to fly. And it's Clark's frustration. It's the fact that he's afraid of his destiny, and he's afraid to embrace his Kryptonian side, and it's what's anchoring him down to the ground. And yet again, here is Supergirl trying to help him. But Clark is hurt, because Jor-El at this point has turned his back on Clark, and has turned to Kara to be the light, and so there's a lot of issues going on here, and I feel like they did a great job in this episode with that. But then, after this okay episode of Supergirl, she disappears until the end of the flippin' season, where it turns out Oliver Queen goes looking for the Bow of Orion, and as he goes looking for it, he finds Supergirl caught in one of these traps that I think was meant to, be a trap for like the Darkseid prophets coming in here looking for the Bow of Orion. But here she is caught in this weird invisible force field. Has she been there this entire time? And then once Oliver gets her out of that trap and they get to the Bow of Orion, she gets called back to Jor-El.
Your own destiny is written. It is in another place and time. But this is Kal-El's battle, and he must fight it alone.
Clark is now ready to face the darkness, so Goodbye. That's it? And then she puts on the Legion ring and disappears. It makes me sad because I think Kara was a great Smallville character, and I think she deserved a far more epic goodbye than what she actually got. And then we have the series finale. And I will say this, about 95% of the series finale is brilliant, and I absolutely love it. But that 5%, one of the things that drives me nuts is the fact that you have this epic moment where Darkseid has possessed the body of Lionel Luthor. Look how creepy he looks. This is awesome. And as he's walking into the barn and he's threatening Kal-El, it's like, this is it. This is an epic moment. And it is kind of cool. I mean, come on, Darkseid punches him. Jor-El takes him out of time and space, and he sees all of his trials. And Clark realizes that his destiny, his Kryptonian side, is not evil. You know, to rule them with strength means to protect them with strength. So he embraces his Kryptonian side. He embraces his destiny, and thus he can fly. All of that, cool. But what is kind of disappointing is all of a sudden he just flies and, you know, blows up Darkseid, turns them into birds. It's like, no! This is the final villain, the darkness that the light needs to fight. What? Give me at least a Doomsday level fight. Are you serious? And then we cut to the fortress where he gets his suit. And I was so excited to have the suit as he's flying up through the fortress, and you see him lifting up the suit and putting it on. I'm like, yes! 10 years, and finally I see him in the suit. Wait, what's that? That's not Tom Welling. That's not the suit. That's a sim from the game The Sims. I mean, seriously, it looks that bad. I have seen him catch a nuke in season 5. I saw him fly in season 4. I know what this show is capable of. Pay Tom Welling whatever he needs to be paid to put on the darn suit so you could do this right. So because he wouldn't wear the suit, they had all these weird, awkward shots of his face. He pushes the planet Apocalypse away and throws it out into space. And then kind of like the close-up on his face is awkward yet again with the cartoony cape in the background. And even the very end, the last shot of him running to the rescue and opening his shirt in that classic manner. It's like, what is that? That's a CGI suit. I think Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern suit looked better. I mean, that's what disappointed me about the finale. Now, the good stuff. First, and probably one of my favorite, is the return of Lionel Luthor. I missed the Luthor dynamic so much. And Lionel Luthor returning in season 10 was just one of those things that reminded me how much I missed it. And I love how they handled his return. Clark getting this Kryptonian mirror box and getting sucked into the mirror world, a world that is a mirror reflection of our world. And there we discover Lionel Luthor.
When you arise in the morning, think what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to enjoy, to love, to think.
Lionel?
Just there from his first lines returning on screen, it just explodes with that dynamism that John Glover brings to that character. It's so awesome to see him. But when we see him, it's not the Lionel Luthor that has been converted by Jor-El, who is a good guy, who wants Clark to fulfill his destiny. This is the evil Lionel Luthor from seasons 1 through 3. In fact, it's a worse Lionel Luthor than that.
No true son of mine, no true Luthor would have let me live this long.
This is a Lionel Luthor who has won. He is the one who found the Traveler in the field and raised Clark. So it's Clark Luthor in the mirror world, which I don't like. I really think Lionel would have named him something with an L, so the initials would have been LL. But that's just me and what I think. But the point is what we get out of this. I mean, Lionel Luthor raises Clark Luthor to be a monster. He becomes Ultraman. Clark Luthor killed Lex Luthor, and Lionel celebrated that as that's what a true Luthor would do. And so he sacrificed Lex for Clark Luthor. And when Clark comes into this dimension and he discovers all of this, it's a very interesting and very well done episode. And you really get to see just how dark and evil Lionel has become when thinking he's a god raising Clark Luthor. But he's also terrified of Clark Luthor. But then when Clark Kent makes his way back to our world, Lionel Luthor hitches a ride, and it brings Lionel Luthor back to our show.
Wouldn't want to miss how it all turns out.
And that is so awesome! And this Lionel has a new motivation. because he betrayed Lex Luthor in the Mirrorverse, and then comes to our universe and finds that Lionel here betrayed Lex to help Clark reach his destiny. He is now obsessed with finding Lex Luthor's clone and grooming him to be the Luthor he knows he can be. And when he hears the Lex Luthor in this world threw him out a window, he's like, well, yeah, that's a real Luthor. And so he wants to groom this Lex to reach his full potential of darkness to stand against Superman. And it's such an interesting motivation. And it builds all the way up to this moment where he captures Tess, who we find out is really Lena Luthor. Lutessa Lena Luthor. She's a Luthor daughter. And so he wants to cut her heart out and use her heart on this clone. Is it a clone?
There were many clones. Lex took the best pieces and grafted them into a masterwork.
All he needs now is a good heart. And when Tess shoots Lionel Luthor and escapes and Darkseid shows up, Lionel gives his soul to Darkseid so that Lex could get a heart and be revived. And it shows like his full twisted commitment to the full darkness of Lex Luthor. And that's when we get the epic Lionel Luthor possessed by Darkseid as the final fight, which is such an interesting choice. And so it's very cool what they do with Lionel and how they build him up and how they even use him in the series finale. The Lex Luthor clones. I thought this was a creative way to bring Lex Luthor back because I think he really did die in season 8 when the truck got blown up. And at the beginning of this season when Clark is having that afterlife experience and he sees Lex in the field and Lex disappears, to me that's that moment where Lex comes back from the dead. So it's very cool to see in Cadmus Labs all these vats of Luthor clones. But one of the interesting things they do with this is Tess ends up adopting the youngest Luthor clone, Alexander. And this is cool because this is that little Alexander that was in Lex's mind in season 7. It's that chance to nurture Alexander with love so that he could grow up to be Alexander in good instead of Lex in evil. But it's so interesting because as Tess is raising this Alexander, that Darkseid gets stronger and stronger and stronger as Lex Luthor's memories return and he's scribbling out S's, like drawing them like he's the bad man and he's gonna hurt me, and him shaving his head at the end of that one episode. It's such an amazing buildup that this is it. This is the Michael Rosenbaum Lex Luthor.
At the window, I told him that our friendship would be the thing of legend.
And then there's a twist on this. Because of the accelerated growth process, they used Clark's DNA from season 2, from that vial, they had some left over, and used his DNA to try to stop that acceleration growth so that he will age normally at a point, but instead it created a metamorphosis where he lost all of the Lex Luthor memories and he becomes Connor Kent. So I thought that was a very cool twist. All the while you had LX0 hidden back there and he just needed a new heart. I love his messed up hand and all of that stuff because it really just builds to the Lex Luthor we've been seeing in those visions all along. The white tux, the gloved hand, and now we see it. Boom! We have the return of Lex Luthor.
What?
Still say it the same way. Astonishment mixed with a hint of dread, yet with a hopeful finish.
Oh my gosh, it does not disappoint. He's not a huge role in this series finale. He's not. Yet the role that he plays in it is absolutely incredible. It was beyond worth it to bring him back and talk about how he and Clark have a destiny together.
We will both be great men. Because of each other. You see, I don't want to do good things. I want to do great things.
And nobody can deliver those lines like Michael Rosenbaum. Now, I'm sad at Tess's death. I wish Tess had a little bit more of an epic ending, because especially at the end there, she says she's looking for redemption and she believes she will never find it. And I'm thinking, what do you mean you'll never find it? You've spent the last couple seasons as a hero. Are you freaking kidding me? You think you haven't found it? At the same time, it does make sense for the show. It makes sense that Tess, now finding out she's a Luthor, is facing down Lex in his office in the series finale, and Lex kills her. And in his own twisted way of thinking, he's saving her from becoming him. Like, he knows he's evil. He knows it, but it's the role he must fulfill. and then Tess rubs his face with that oil from Summerholt, and it goes and erases all of his memories. So now we have a Lex Luthor who doesn't know Clark Kent is Superman, and we can have that classic Lex Luthor Superman relationship. And I feel like that's something that was so incredibly well done. Plus, how awesome is it to finally have Michael Rosenbaum back? And I can't wait to read Smallville Season 11 to see what they do with that. I also love how they used Jonathan Kent, like the spirit of Jonathan Kent returning, and every time he's here, it's like he's the Holy Spirit. In episode 1, when he appears, it's right after Jor-El turned his back on Clark, saying your heart is full of pride and hatred. If you face the darkness, you will lose. And then there's Jonathan Kent, speaking love and encouragement to Clark, encouraging him that he can overcome it all.
I failed. We're all confronted with trials, son. But the true measure of a man is how he chooses to react in the face of those trials.
And I love that encouragement and love that he gives Clark. But my favorite is in the series finale, right before Clark is about to get married, he's at his father's grave and he's talking about how he has to let go. But his father's spirit is standing there saying, you don't have to let me go because I'm here with you.
Mom says I should hold on to you.
You don't need to hold on to somebody, Clark, if they're already in your heart.
But I love it because Clark is saying all of these things coming out of a place of pride and fear, and Jonathan is answering those things with hope and love and strength. But Clark is just not listening. And it makes me think of how often am I praying to God and I'm frustrated or I'm scared and the Holy Spirit is speaking, but I'm not listening. And it's one of those scenes that convicts me. It's so well done. And I love those moments in the barn, right as apocalypse is coming, and the encouragement that Jonathan Kent gives his son, and how Martha kind of just walks in and just so casually accepts Jonathan's spirit being there, kind of indicating she's seen his spirit more than just now. But it's awesome, like the way that they are talking to Clark as a family and encouraging him. And so we have this final moment of the complete Kent family together before he becomes Superman. And of course, it's amazing, the never let go of Smallville.
Always hold on to Smallville.
Like, that moment is awesome when Jonathan is handing him the suit. And so I love Jonathan Kent, and I love how they used him in the role that he plays this season. The other interesting plot point in Season 10 is the VRA, the Vigilante Registration Act. The coolest part of them, Slade Wilson.
Let's just say the Reaper can swing his sickle at me, but I'm beyond death's stroke now.
I love that guy. That guy is excellent in Battlestar Galactica, and he is excellent as Slade Wilson.
Made of steel or just a man?
I am man.
One.
And steel.
Zero.
Gosh, that's such an epic line. But as good as he is, I'm sorry. But the Slade Wilson in Arrow Season 1 and 2, that dude is my favorite interpretation by far. But here in Smallville Season 10, this is great. Even though he does tick me off, it's awesome when he pulls out his swords and he fights Hawkman, but it ticks me off when Hawkman dies. Gosh, I love that Hawkman so much. But it is the end of the show, so it's not like we're going to see him again anyway. But man, it still hurts. Like when he's falling out of that building with his wings on fire, it's like, don't give the VRA the satisfaction of literally being Icarus flying too close to the sun and your wings burning.
To actually see a man with burning wings plummet from the sky.
Ugh! But anyway, he's such a great villain. But what's so great about the VRA is they are a literal manifestation of the darkness, of Darkseid. Here's Clark demolishing strongholds in his heart, taking bigger and bigger steps into the light and becoming more and more the Superman that he's meant to be. Of course, the darkness is not going to sit by and just let that happen. Of course, they're going to fight. The whole purpose of the VRA is to take away people's hope, to crush their heroes. That if the heroes register with the government and they register with the VRA, then the VRA owns them. Period. It's like Civil War, but worse. So the VRA will own these heroes, and their purpose is they want to break the heroes. And I think the VRA believes they're just upholding law and order, but they don't know the true master they're serving. They've given into their dark side, so they've been marked by Darkseid himself. Look at the tactics they're using. It's Darkseid. He wants to break the heroes and break their hope. And he wants to break the people and break their hope so that the world could be full of darkness for the dark rapture at the end.
I've seen this level of hatred before. Humanity's darkest hours, Spanish Inquisition, the Third Reich.
You're saying the darkness has been here before?
It's the revelation that the darkness has been here before, and we've seen how evil it can get, and we're only seeing the shallow end of the evilness of this. So we got to get people's hope up. So it's also cool when the VRA is repealed, and we see all this hope and encouragement coming to the Blur. I love those moments. It's incredible because it reminds Clark that there is still hope and good in the world. Either way, he needs to be the light and inspire that hope. But I just love, because we all need those words of encouragement. We all need to know that what we're doing is making an impact. So it's cool to see the VRA get repealed. So it's very cool to see the Vigilante Registration Act, how it plays into this whole idea that we need heroes who are good and full of integrity and step into the light because they have nothing to hide. And how the VRA is now being the darkness trying to demolish that and demolish that hope. So it's a very cool plotline. And of course, the interpretation of Darkseid. I love him being a spirit in Smallville. What I like about it is he really is this spirit of fear, and he latches onto the dark side of humanity. So I like that play on his name.
So basically, this thing doesn't have to do anything.
It just waits for everybody's weaknesses, and then we destroy ourselves.
Now that's a truly frightening thought. Humanity easily falls prey to the darkness. And when they easily fall prey to that darkness, we have one destiny, and that is the dark rapture with Darkseid to Apocalypse in eternal hell forever. That is mankind's one destiny. So mankind's one hope is to put their hope in the light, to break their bondage that connects them to Apocalypse. And I think that does a great job setting the stage for why the world needs Superman.
There must be a part of you that's disgusted by how easily your people fell to me.
Good and evil both increased at compound interest. That is why the little decisions you and I make every day are of such infinite importance. The smallest good act today is the capture of a strategic point from which, a few months later, you may be able to go on to victories you never dreamed of. An apparently trivial indulgence in lust or anger today is the loss of a ridge or railway line or bridgehead from which the enemy may launch an attack otherwise impossible. Season 10 brings us back full circle to my Season 1 theological review, because that was the foundational quote in my theological review about the small decisions Clark and Lex made in that foundational season that led to where they are today. And in fact, this quote, I think, is even more crucial for Clark Kent as we dive into Season 10, because he is supposed to be the light of the world.
You are the light.
The light that will inspire this world out of darkness.
You are the light!
He is supposed to be the light that expels Darkseid, so that people look up when they see him. And when they have hope in him, it breaks their bondage. It removes the mark off their forehead so they're no longer attached to Apocalypse, so that he could push it away. But to become that light, he must eradicate the strongholds of darkness in his own heart. And Season 10 opens where certain strongholds are revealed to us, namely pride. Somewhere along the line, a Messiah complex has crept into Clark's heart very sneakily and very subtly. And it starts when Clark is kind of dead, having a near-death experience in the very first episode. In that afterlife moment, Jor-El speaks to him and says, a great darkness is coming. And you even see Jor-El like, do I bring you back or not? I mean, come on. Clark just defeated Zod. He sent the Kandorians home. I mean, Clark means well. He's a good dude. But when Lois Lane pulls that blue dagger out of him, he goes to face that darkness. And having seen Lex in that vision, it's understandable why he would think Lex is that darkness. Especially with Dr. Fate saying that Lex Luthor would be his ultimate opponent and he would triumph over him. And so here he is thinking, yeah, it's gotta be Lex Luthor. He is the ultimate darkness. But where is that thought even coming from? It's coming from a place of hatred. It's coming from a place of vengeance. So by the end, when Clark finds that twisted clone of Lex who has this great idea of symmetry, seriously, season 1 opens with Clark having that S on his chest strung up in that field, and then it's the same thing now with Lois, S on her chest strung up in the field. The point is in this scene, you have this interesting line.
Now you wear that pride in your chest, but just beneath it lies the darkness in your heart.
Because as long as he hates Lex that much, as long as he's full of pride, when he faces the darkness, he will be the Earth's ultimate darkness.
It preys on wavering souls like yours. Once this darkness consumes you, you will be Earth's greatest enemy.
In fact, Clark goes to kill Lex. He pulls back and he doesn't actually kill Lex, but even though he didn't kill him, that hatred, he murdered Lex in his heart. And that's what Jor-El points out at the end of this episode.
You almost took a man's life, and you dare tell me you're following the path I set out for you?
Those are harsh words, yet those words are true. And those words are a discouragement to Clark. Even when Jonathan shows up at the end to give Clark encouragement and love, that we all got stains in our heart. We all have a dark side. Deep inside we do, but we can all overcome that. Even though Jonathan speaks that encouragement to Clark, he still feels that discouragement.
You cannot be a beacon of hope when you have darkness in your heart.
In fact, one of the powerful pictures in the season is this. In episode 3, Clark goes up against Godfrey, but Clark lost the battle long before he even walked into the room. Godfrey read the darkness in his heart as if he was reading it off a sheet of paper.
You're afraid you'll never be the hero you want to be. You wish you could kill me. You're at war with yourself. The turmoil is overwhelming.
Which of course freaks out Clark and fills him with even more self-doubt. And then Godfrey is about to consume him. The darkness is about to fully possess Clark and transform him into the Earth's greatest weapon. But Supergirl intervenes and Supergirl saves him. Now contrast that to the series finale. So here Clark has his greatest failure with the darkness, but in the series finale, when Clark is scared that he's going to fail again, and he's talking to the spirit of his father, Jonathan Kent says this.
He almost defeated me. I need your help.
But son, he never saw the man who's standing before me now.
So something has truly changed in Clark. From episode 3, where he nearly was consumed by darkness, to this series finale, he is a new man now able to face the darkness. So what is it that happened between episode 3 and the series finale? Well, the first big thing that happened is probably the absolute best episode of the season, episode 4, Homecoming, which is actually the 200th episode of Smallville. Now, I'm going to camp out on this episode for a minute because it's so incredibly crucial to the choices that Clark makes from this moment forward. First off, I love that it starts off as a fake out. You think it's going to be a lame Freak of the Week, and I love that the show knows that's what you think. Freak of the Weeks are lame, and this is going to be one of those. It's a great fake out, and then all of a sudden Brainiac comes in, and you're like, yes! But it's not just Brainiac. This is Brainiac saved by Clark. After that digital exorcism, and he was taken out of Chloe, he was taken to the 31st century. And it's because Clark fought for Chloe's life that Brainiac survived, was taken to the 31st century, and reprogrammed, converted to be a good guy. And now he's Brainiac 5, come back to return the favor. Clark saved his life. Now he is going to save Clark's life. That in itself is a powerful thing. But I think Brainiac 5 very much plays the role of the Holy Spirit in this episode. Again, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And this is what he's trying to bring to Clark. Liberty. And so it's very interesting how Brainiac 5 does this. So here in the 200th episode, Brainiac 5 takes Clark back in time to the 100th episode, where Jonathan Kent dies. Because this was another great big defining moment for Clark.
The day you started to blame yourself.
Because Clark blamed it on himself, as if he literally killed his father and held the murder weapon in his hand. I mean, seriously, in season 9, he says to Zod flat out, I killed my father. No, he didn't.
Why won't you forgive yourself?
He didn't have a choice. He's my father. Of course he'd sacrifice anything to protect me.
We always have a choice, Kal-El.
And this is exactly what Brainiac wants to reveal to Clark. No, you did not kill your father.
Your father didn't have to care for you the way he did. He had
Still, he made that choice every day he was with you. He chose to be your protector.
So it's a powerful episode and a powerful moment because it shows you this isn't Clark's fault. He didn't go back in time and change fate, and it's his fault that his dad is dead. One way or the other, this encounter was going to happen between Jonathan Kent and Lionel Luthor. And because Jonathan loves his son, he was going to protect his son. And so this is what Brainiac 5 is trying to release him from. Clark is sitting here punishing himself. Such love has no fear, because perfect love expels all fear. If we are afraid, it is for fear of punishment. And this shows that we have not fully experienced his perfect love. This is going to come back in a major way, how perfect love expels fear. But one of the things exposed here is how much fear Clark has. And he feels he deserves this punishment, so he flogs himself. So after seeing how he's been punishing himself ever since his father's death, Brainiac 5 takes him to the present to Oliver Queen. Now, Oliver Queen has done something brave. He's revealed his secret identity to the world, that he is the Green Arrow. Now, he did this because at the beginning of the season, Chloe Sullivan traded her life for his when the Suicide Squad had kidnapped him. She put on Dr. Fate's helmet. She saw the only way to save Oliver Queen, so she did this, faking her own death even, so that the Suicide Squad wouldn't keep looking for her, and then she had to remain hidden, but she traded her life for Oliver so Oliver could be set free. So he's dealing with that depression, and he's hating the fact that his identity was a secret, and therefore it was able to be held hostage like that. He couldn't stand that idea. And it rolls into this theme of Season 10. Heroes stepping into the light because they're good, they're full of integrity, and they have nothing to hide. And Oliver, he might have overcompensated a little bit. He might have. But he revealed his identity to the world because he didn't want it held hostage. And I thought that was a very cool moment. The first time I watched this show, my jaw dropped. I was like, are we going to time travel? Where's the Legion ring? And it just kept going. I was like, all right, I guess this is the new normal. Oliver Queen is revealed to the world as Green Arrow. So that was really interesting. And you have this line here from Clark.
Oliver made his own decision to come out to the public. He didn't think about what it would mean to the rest of us.
So here he is talking about how Oliver didn't think how this would affect everybody else. But it shows what Brainiac is trying to reveal to Clark. Clark is not living in the present moment. I mean, look at this right here.
No, I mean any calls.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Kent hasn't left word.
Oliver is looking for the love and support of his friend, and Clark is missing it. Why? Because he's punishing himself. He's punishing himself for not being perfect.
The darkness is the past, and you hold on to it. You dwell. You punish yourself and everyone around you for past mistakes.
He's punishing Oliver with his distance and his silence. And now he's seeing the cost of that. The cost of that on Oliver. The cost of that to their friendship. And it's quite a revealing thing.
Today, tomorrow, be there for him now and stop punishing him for his past with your silence and your distance. Let it go.
Then Brainiac 5 shows him Lois Lane. And in this whole little dance sequence and the reunion, we really see that Lois Lane feels a little second fiddle to Lana Lang. And that's not the case in Clark's heart. She is not second fiddle. But by not living in the present moment and withdrawing and punishing himself, he's seeing how that's hurting her. And then here's the ultimate moment where we see Clark is not living in the present moment. Bug Boy from Season 1, Episode 2 makes a grand return and slowly walks up to Lois Lane. I have a message for Clark Kent. And Clark in a full-on panic like he's got to defeat this enemy. And think about it. He watched Davis Bloom kill Jimmy Olsen. He went through all of that to get the Kryptonian monster out of the way, but the human was the real monster. He has lost some trust and faith in humanity, and you see that here, and he grabs that Legion ring and teleports to the future, where lo and behold, he finds, oh no! Everything's fine. Lois Lane knows his secret, and the relationship is stronger for it. He sees himself as nerdy Clark Kent transform into the mighty Superman, stopping a nuclear explosion. He suddenly sees all that he's feared about his future was unrealistic. He's a prisoner to the pain of his past, therefore fears what his future is going to be, and is therefore not living in the present moment and making decisions out of darkness and fear instead of out of hope and faith.
You don't need to worry about the future, Kal-El. You can see that it's just fine, as long as you shed the weight of the past.
And then he sees Bug Boy again, saying thank you to Clark. thank you for how you changed my life and set me right. Can you imagine how encouraging that is to Clark? I love the end of this episode where he's dancing with Lois in the barn, and for a brief moment, the fear, the punishment, it's all let go, and he hovers as he's dancing with Lois Lane. And what you really see is from this moment on, Clark starts making new choices. Instead of giving ground to the darkness, he starts giving ground back to hope, back to the light. You see it at the end of this episode where Oliver is being bombarded by the media. It's just this horrible interview where he's being torn to shreds. But Clark shows up and gives him just a smile and a nod. And it's all Oliver needed. And you get this epic moment.
In this world of armchair bloggers who've created a generation of critics instead of leaders, I'm actually doing something.
And it just gave him that strength. And Clark saw that, the value in their friendship of being there in that present moment. The very next episode, Clark reveals to Lois Lane that he is the Blur. This is such a brilliant scene. I love the emotion of the scene. I love how her face lights up, how she runs to him and jumps in his arms and they fall over. And she says, "What took you so long?" And he's like, "You knew?" But just the relief, but him finding the courage to make that step of faith and trust her. And even the next episode after that is overall pretty lame. The whole harvest episode where they go to that weird Amish town. But the amazing thing about that episode is he begins to learn Lois Lane is not a damsel in distress. She is his partner and she is going to stand beside him. They stand together in this call and in this destiny, and they each have that role and function to fulfill. And it's amazing to see him learn that. One of the ways he learns it is this fight against the VRA. So you have Aquaman, and here's Aquaman acting like the VRA, blowing up VRA facilities, fighting darkness with darkness. So Clark goes to intervene. So on the one hand, this also sharpens and strengthens Clark as he acts like the light, and he stands for the light, and he starts teaching, you know, Aquaman, you gotta fight the darkness with the light, not with more darkness. And I love how that message is driven home for Aquaman.
Digging in our heels and being as extreme as Slade makes us no better than them. Lead by example, not by resistance.
But Aquaman has a message for Clark, too.
But you can't bring her on the team and keep her benched.
And this episode, this is where Lois finds out about Watchtower, that Tess is part of it, but Clark realizes that, yeah, that's true. She's not a damsel in distress. I gotta quit doing this. And he invites her to be part of Watchtower. And then leading to his proposal as he proposes to Lois. So love is expelling fear. It's strengthening him. It's growing him. And the more decisions he makes out of faith and love and hope, the more he transforms into that man he becomes in the series finale.
Even though a time will come when he turns away from me, in the end, he will make the right decision.
But pride is a little pesky thing that manages to worm its way in because it is the last mountain that needs to be removed in Clark's heart. So towards the end there, Jor-El gives Clark and Lois a wedding gift, perspective, and gives Lois Clark Kent's powers. And of course, Lois getting involved in this trial freaks Clark out, and he takes this lesson about control to the weirdest possible extreme that he could, thinking, Jor-El, I have to control my own destiny, and the only way I can be the hero the world needs me to be is when I step beyond being Jonathan Kent or Jor-El's son. And thankfully, this isn't drug out very long. It's just the last 2.5 episodes because it's irritating to me when he turns his back on Jor-El because he believes Jor-El has nothing else to teach him. It irritates me when he turns his back on Jonathan because there's no way a human would be able to understand the choices that he has to make, and so he has to go beyond either of them, and he must stand alone. It's better that way.
You mean it's easier that way?
And I just want to slap him when he's starting to act like this at the end. He went beyond just forgiving himself, which is what Brainiac was trying to show him, to cutting out his entire past, which is not at all what anybody was saying.
If you turn your back on all the experiences that made you strong and compassionate because they hurt, I'm afraid that one day everything you learned in Smallville will have been for nothing.
It's amazing how quickly pride makes you forget, but it's amazing how love is such a humbling thing. And that's the best part of Lois and Clark's wedding, is because as Lois reads Clark's vows to her, the fears that she had of marrying him, that she would be taking him from the world, are settled. And she lets them go as love expels fear. And then as he reads the vows she wrote him, it changes his heart, and he humbles himself under love. And we see it lifts him up, because even at their wedding, poor Oliver gave in to wrath earlier in the season and was marked by Darkseid.
That anger, that desire for revenge.
From the moment you were marked, you've been serving him.
And is therefore a servant of the darkness. He is a slave, and he's bound to the planet Apocalypse. But when Clark opens his arms in surrender and has faith in his friend that he can overcome it, when Oliver's trying to plant a gold kryptonite ring on him, the gold kryptonite will remove Clark's powers forever. Clark kind of just surrenders and says, I have faith in you. And it saves Oliver Queen. And because Clark has removed that last mountain in his heart, he now flies to take on that planet Apocalypse. And as the people look up in hope in him, their bondage to that planet is broken, and they are set free. What I love about Clark's journey in season 10 is it just shows the journey of humanity. We all have those dark places, those places where it has those strongholds in our lives, and we need those broken. But that's the power of the Holy Spirit. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And he is leading us to liberty and freedom from that darkness. As long as we live on this earth, we have that sin nature to contend with. That's why it's crucial to not dig in our heels and be stubborn when the Holy Spirit is talking, but to listen to him like Clark listened to Brainiac, like Clark finally listened to Jonathan. Because when he listened, that's when he found that freedom. So when we give our lives to God and we listen to what he's saying, that's where we find that freedom. I also love the truth that Smallville points us towards. Humanity is doomed without Jesus. Just as the same way the earth was doomed because of Darkseid, because humanity so easily fell prey to the darkness. They were marked with that Omega symbol, and that Omega symbol bound them to Apocalypse, and it drew Apocalypse towards the earth. But it's when they looked up in the sky and they saw Superman and they had hope that it broke that bondage, and Superman was able to push Apocalypse away. So when all these things begin to happen, stand up and look, for your salvation is near. The great thing about Jesus is he is the perfect and sinless Messiah, and that's the only way that he could pay for our sins, was to be sinless. He had the light in him, and the darkness had no hold over him. When he went into that wilderness to be tempted, yeah, he was tempted, but it was also a declaration that the devil had no hold on him, and he passed every single temptation. In that day, the Lord will end the bondage of his people. He will break the yoke of slavery and lift it from their shoulders. That's a great picture that we see in Superman, their bondage being broken, and Superman lifting Apocalypse far away from them. And we have that in reality when we put our hope and faith in Jesus. When we put our faith in him alone, he breaks the bondage. He breaks the things that tie us to hell so that we become brand new creations and we can live in the light. And he sets us free from that bondage. He is the hope of the world.
So what are you, man or Superman?
Haven't figured it out yet.
You are the last son of Krypton.
What are you trying to tell me, Dad? That I'm from another planet?
Smallville is a very special show for me. It was there for me when I was a senior in high school when it began to air. It was there for me all through college. It was there when I moved from Ohio to California and met my wife. It's just been one of my favorite shows that was there for me for so long, and I will forever have a special place in my heart for Smallville.
Always hold on to Smallville.
What did you think of Season 10? Let's talk about that in the comments. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian, and hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified for my next movie review, ranking video, theological analysis, or anything else I do here. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.